Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the O'Collies coverage of OSU's 37-34 victory over the Miami Hurricanes, and our deep in the Novo coverage, our review of this. I'm Ryan Novozinsky, joined here as always by Sudeep Tumma. Oh my goodness, Sudeep, this is our last football episode. This is kind of sad.
The last episode of 2020.
Of 2020, sure. Yeah, you're right. So I guess, we should start with the ending. What can we summarize how this game went, I guess, in talking about a season, holistic scope of it, because I think there's so many parallels. You saw some of the injuries. You saw Tylan Wallace getting benched, or not getting benched, but sidelining himself. Him and Mike Gundy thought of it. I think this game, when you talk about some of the, I guess, comebacks from Miami and, despite having a backup quarterback in, it was kind of very parallel to the season and how it ended with a close victory over the Miami Hurricanes. So just sort of what did you think of this game and how it went overall?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting game, right? I mean, it was a really good game. You think about it. And it was one where early on, the first quarter, like I said after the game, it was the most complete OSU quarter I've seen this season. I mean, what I'm saying is the way they played in that first quarter, that's the way that you were sitting there like, man, this is how they should have played all season long. Yeah. And especially with the defense and how well they were playing. But it was great from there, because from there, obviously you had Derrick King go down, and that was tough for Miami. But I mean, it almost wasn't, right? They were better almost. Yeah. And that wasn't a thing of Derrick King is not good. It was a thing of all the schemes of Miami. They really settled in a little bit, and OSU started to bite on fakes, which really happened from the way that this Miami offense was trending, the way that they were, with the bubble screens and the fakes and the QB counters and everything, which we'll get into. But yeah, from there, it was definitely a great game. It was obviously a close one, one where you thought after it was going to be just a blowout after the first quarter. Great step by OSU. I mean, Spencer Sanders, this was a good closeout for him going into an interesting 2020. Yeah. But yeah, overall, good game for sure.
And that's the point I was trying to get in the intro, is that, you got a little bit of everything. You got a glimpse of everything that we saw in this season for OSU on display this past afternoon. The only thing that I feel like was missing was more turnovers from Spencer Sanders, which is a good thing for the Cowboys to not have that. Just more refined play from him, and Chuba Hubbard, obviously, who wasn't playing, who opted out. Rodarius Williams opted out, just to prepare for the NFL draft. And you had all of these different elements in this game, but you also had a perfect glimpse into the future, right? Starting obviously with Brennan Presley. What a performance from him. I mean, you look at his numbers here. We got 6 receptions, right? 118 yards, an average of 19.7, and 3 TDs. That's the one that sticks out the most to me. 3 TDs for the young guy, okay? This guy's going to be a baller in the future, and he does it in smart ways, right? He's a very, very, very quick wide receiver. There's no denying that. But the way he's able to craft through some of these defenses, especially that zone for Miami, I mean, he did it all night, and he was able to swing through that defense.
The numbers definitely match the production. I mean, sorry, that makes no sense. The numbers are the production. The numbers match the quality of play on the field, right? You saw it from beginning to end. He wasn't just, put up big numbers, and it wasn't just a 100-yard game and, 3 touchdowns. Didn't just lead the team with targets. He was the guy who was, constantly giving them offense, giving them big plays, giving them impactful plays, constantly getting them in good situations, stretching out the field, helping Spencer Sanders. Yeah, I mean, that one play with the zone, the out route, we'll get to that in the film room, which obviously I think that's what impresses me the most. It wasn't just a guy who is, like explosive guy. I mean, here's the thing. A guy like this, Brennan Presley, you want to get him the ball in space.
Sure.
Right? Get him the ball, let him do stuff with the ball, because he's a yards after catch monster.
Exactly.
As we saw, he's got moves, he's elusive, he's quick in the open field, and he's fast. He can get down the field. We didn't see the exact route on the one where he beat the guy, but even the one with the touchdown, the leaping one where he caught it, contested, hit, and fell into the end zone, that was underthrown, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously tough throw when you're on the run going to the left when you're Spencer Sanders, but Brennan Presley caught it, and, he caught an underthrown ball. He made a contested catch, something Braden Johnson has not done all season.
Calling him out.
Right? I mean, that's something that he struggled with, Braden Johnson has. And Brennan Presley showed that maybe he can be the number one guy.
Sure.
Size concerns aside, we've seen small receivers, especially in 2020, NFL or college football. Small receivers are able to play outside receiver. Played a lot of the slot. I wonder. I mean, he did play a little bit outside this season, mostly the slot this season. But I wonder, because those slot receivers are typically, short passing game, short catches, little out routes, in routes, crossing routes. That's kind of been the route tree for Dylan Stoner when he's been in the slot mostly. But Brennan Presley was impressive all season long. It was great timing though. Like Spencer Sanders talked about the timing between them two. You saw it on the routes. You saw it on the turns. The passes were crisp. Everything was just turning. Momentum's a real thing. Timing, rhythm is a real thing for a quarterback. And when you're in that sort of flow and that sort of rhythm, and a guy is stretching the field like Brennan Presley, it's tough because there's not much for you if you're this Miami team. You didn't really game plan for talent for Brennan Presley. I'll get into that. You're more so focusing on Dylan Stoner and Tylan Wallace. I mean, for good measure, right?
Yeah.
And even if no Tylan Wallace, you're still focusing on Dylan Stoner. And then Landon Wolf, and then Braden Johnson, even
right.
Tay Martin, probably before Brennan Presley. There hasn't been much impact Brennan Presley, and that's not to say, okay, it's easy for most fans to say, okay, why didn't Presley just do this all season? The offense would have been better. No, the offensive line struggled all season long. They got better this game. That was a big part of it. But it also takes a lot of maturity, a lot of experience, a lot of reps for young guys to get to do that. You can do it in practice. On the field's a different type of thing, and it was a great performance, and that was really the engine to this offense all game long, and it was good, really good. When we kind of question not only who's going to take over for Tylan Wallace next year, all season long we're hoping a number 2 kind of emerges, and it hasn't happened. I mean, but now you see it, right? Well, you see the fruit with these guys for sure.
And you're right when you say there that him emerging during this game too. You talk about it being a different beast, practice versus a game. It's a different beast, practice versus a bowl game too,
Sure.
and especially when you have that number 1 wide receiver, Tylan Wallace, obviously limited with his production because of the game plan before, and for Brennan Presley to step up in this situation was just so crucial for this OSU team, especially against a very talented number 18 in the country Miami team, right? Obviously, as of late, they've had their struggles, but still the number 18 team in the country, right? In a good ACC this year, obviously not good all across the board,
but definitely, a lot better,
way better than they were last year. You got Notre Dame in there, right? And they have had a fantastic season. Obviously, their quarterback goes down, but Brennan Presley not getting covered by Derek King.
Yeah.
Right? He's getting covered by some pretty talented, very talented members of that Miami secondary. So for him to step up in this situation, absolutely outstanding for him. And just momentum. You talk about momentum in the game. Momentum going forward for this team looks pretty on the come up, right? Because everyone's wondering who that next guy is going to be. I think we pretty much can say with certainty that one of the leading candidates is going to be Brennan Presley.
Sure.
And another one, a shocker, Tay Martin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and here's the thing. It's not that Brennan Presley doesn't have the talent to do it, but if he's relegated to that slot versus the Z receiver position that we know Casey Dunn's guys have, excelled at, that outside receiver spot, and we saw Dylan Stoner excel there versus you saw what he does in the slot versus when he's out there, flexed out to the outside when Tylan Wallace went down. Stoner can produce. We saw it against Baylor. But, I don't think that, putting Presley in the slot is just going to completely, diminish him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a different type of role. I wonder if he's going to play outside receiver. And it's not just about, okay, he's undersized so he can't do it. But undersized guys have done it. But when you do, you have to be able to, release off the line of scrimmage. That's your number 1 thing. You have to be able to, because you run a little different route tree when you're on the outside. You're playing different leverage because the defender is using that boundary a lot of times as the second defender. You're running, different routes, different leverage, different things. That's why slot corners are different from outside corners. Football is a whole very technical game, and it's going to be interesting to see that. But Tay Martin, I think, was so impressive last night.
Yeah.
I think one of really the underrated storylines of last night. I mean, man, he was so strong. You really saw the qualities, what you were looking for in that outside guy. There was talk of him playing that X receiver, which obviously he hasn't played a lot of snaps either, but he hasn't done much out there. What he has done when he's done it well is run those out routes. You saw it against Baylor too. I mean, those 5 to 10 yards, he could get open. You see the route running, the ability to just sit down there, strong hands, very strong. then his ability to go, high point of football, Tylan Wallace-esque. I mean, it's going to be like Tylan Wallace is just the measuring stick for everyone.
Sure.
And no one's ever going to really reach that. I mean, maybe in the future, but
even if you're great value brand Tylan Wallace, you're still a pretty damn good wide receiver.
Sure. And I mean, you look for those same qualities. Like, I'll say Dylan Stoner can go up and get a ball. No one's really ever going to do it at Oklahoma State. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say ever, but no one's really going to do it, at least in the near future, like Tylan Wallace did it. I mean, he was probably the most physical receiver in college football, right?
Right.
He was so strong, and his ability to go up was just insane. But Tay Martin showed that he could do that too, right? He could play that outside receiver. He could run routes well. He could get open with the coverage draped all over him. Those in-breaking routes, those out-breaking routes. Down the field, you saw it on the one where he adjusted his body and went up and caught the ball. He's able to do that. He's able to high point those balls. You see the strength. Then you see the yards after catch too. He catches the ball on those out routes and puts a foot in the ground, makes a guy miss. And he's not Brennan Presley quick,
sure.
But you see that deceptiveness that he's so strong he can run over a guy, but he can also get around a guy a little bit. And those are some nice traits for a guy who I think is going to excel next year.
I think so too, right? And I talked about it last night on the video, post-game video. But when you look at how Tay Martin's offense was at Washington State, the air raid, right? One of the most misleading things about the air raid is you think, oh, they air it out down the field, right? No, there's a lot of yards after catch involved in the air raid offense, right?
Right.
A lot of the crossing routes, mesh concept, mesh concept that is a huge part of it, right? It's not 4 verticals every time by any means. So when you look at what he was able to do, and he was one of their best receivers, if not their best receiver at Washington State. So with how he's able to translate that to OSU, obviously not the air raid, but he's able to do that with those out routes, right? And he's able to get the yards after catch. He's able to be that threat downfield too. Like you said, high pointing the ball. I think he can have that ability. So when you look at Tay Martin going forward, obviously, there's some questions of will he come back because of his eligibility, or who knows. But everyone gets the year of I guess eligibility left. So I think he might come back. That's based off nothing, but with his excelled role during this game, I think it would be a really fun thing to see in the future.
2 things I always say are impossible to speculate. One is, I mean, not impossible, but it's one of the hardest things to predict is what's the word? Development.
Exactly.
Right? That's one of the hardest things. The other hard thing is, I mean, in 2020, is a guy going to come back or not? But in this case, we actually do have some sort of tangible proof. The way Casey Dunn was talking yesterday, and even just the words, if you look on a piece of paper, he kind of said, okay, I think he found a home there. Which insinuates, you kind of read between the lines a little bit, is that Tay Martin will be coming back and finding a home at the Z receiver position. That to me, I mean, if he does come back, which... I mean, for all intents and purposes, I do think that he will come back.
Yeah.
You come all the way to Oklahoma State when you come to a new program, you hope to possibly lock down a starting spot, and you've just been hurt, you haven't been out, like inconsistent the whole season long. Then you finally find your spark in the end of the game, and now now the coaches are appreciating you. Casey Dunn, one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country, is appreciating you. That's a good lock, and if you start from there and you really show out game after game, that's how you land yourself in the NFL.
Yeah, totally. And there's no way. I mean, unless he's just a grinded out kind of off-season guy who really elevates his game, almost like Tyron Johnson-esque, to where he's actually a contributing member in the NFL, but goes undrafted, right? And has that sort of semblance of really grinded out offseason where he elevates his game that much. He can't really do that. He can't really do that this offseason. I don't feel like. I feel like he would be better, or I guess what I'm trying to say is he would be better suited to come back to OSU, where there's not one person that sticks out as being that number one guy. If Dylan Stoner were coming back, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I don't feel like.
No, I agree.
I bet he would still come back.
Sure.
But I think that he can really be that number one guy next year.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we talk about. There might be like a 1A, 1B, 1C type of thing, right? Depending on, the young guys, the Jaden Bray and, the Green Twins and all the freshmen.
The Green Twins too, yeah.
Right. You talk about a lot of freshmen, but there's going to be a lot of depth, but there's going to be a lot of interesting talks there, right? Brennan Presley, I mean, who knows Braden Johnson anymore? He really looks like it's out there, but a guy like Langston Anderson, another interesting piece.
Sure.
There's a lot of pieces out there, but there's also a place for Tay Martin to go grab it. But yeah, there are a lot of pieces. I mean, everyone forgot about Langston Anderson. That's a guy who, potentially could have emerged as that number 2 guy behind Tylan Wallace and showed out as, okay, I can be the star the following year. maybe he still will, right? Maybe he'll blow up his third year.
Mhm.
He's been hurt. I mean, we haven't seen him on the field much, but it'll really be interesting to see what that is. But it'll be interesting, but it won't be, a fearful thing where
Right.
there is, a lack of options per se.
Mhm.
But there is definitely a lot of receivers, and it'll just be interesting who breaks out and who grabs that spot.
It's kind of exciting to an extent because you don't. In years past, you had great transitions, whether it's the wide receiver position, whether it's the quarterback position, whether it's the running back position, right? Where you have, James Washington, Tylan Wallace, right? From there, before that, it was Justin Blackmon.
Sure.
Or excuse me, Des Bryant.
Right.
Then before that, Justin Blackmon. Running backs too. You can go from Justice Hill, then you can go to Chuba Hubbard, then Dominic Richardson, Desmond Jackson, right?
Yeah.
You have so many different transition processes. It's seamless. Now you're right.
Even quarterback.
Exactly, yeah. Now you got 1A, 1B, 1C. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a fun battle. Like I hated, oh God, I hated when it was, Drew Brown, Spencer Sanders, of course. But when it was before, when it was Taylor Cornelius, sort of, versus Spencer Sanders, oh, how annoying was that? But when you look at this like holistically, yeah, you have to look at that and see this is going to be a battle in that wide receiver position group next year. Do you think, transitioning now, you talked about the quarterbacks. Do you think that there could be a quarterback position battle next offseason? Obviously, this is going forward a little bit, but let's talk about how Spencer Sanders. Let's first talk about how Spencer Sanders did in this game, the MVP.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to really digest. Early on, you saw just a heavy dose of the passing attack. What was it, 13 passes?
Yeah,
one
run.
And it was interesting because you saw the way they ran last game, how successful they were against Texas Tech. And suddenly it was just abandoned. And a lot of that was probably, the keys they were seeing. You saw a different, a lot of off coverage, a lot of those sort of things. And it was working, right? A lot of in rhythm, and it was just working. Spencer Sanders in a flow, in a rhythm, the way the defense was.
Right.
And it was working. The offensive line was blocking really well. The ball was coming out of Spencer's hands quickly, but he was really comfortable. And you saw a lot of those passes, sidearms, off balance, on the run, to the left too. He's a guy who loves breaking out to his right. When you see him scramble, most of the time he's going on his right. But when he's going on his left, he was making passes. He looked so comfortable. He really did. And he was making, he was confident. There was one bad pass where it almost led to an interception. But that was it.
Yeah.
and that's not going to happen for quarterbacks. I mean, you look at a quarterback, they might have one interception, they might have three. That doesn't mean they threw one bad pass and three bad passes. They might have thrown 7 bad passes and had 0 interceptions. That's just how it goes, but I don't think it was a forced, really, pass by Spencer. It was just a bad throw. I mean, interceptions happen different times. One is bad decisions. Another is bad throws. Another is just really good defensive plays, right? Different things. But overall, I mean, yeah, great play by him. I think it was that sort of thing that kind of led to that first half, that first 21-0. It gave you that feel of, okay, this is going to be a blowout because they were rolling so well. The defense was stopping this Miami team, and everything was flowing for this OSU team. Obviously, the run game wasn't even there at that point, but just the pass game, the explosiveness, the yards after catch, the ability to go down the field, the keys were good. But then it was a great adjustment by Miami where they started to, rush the quarterback, but then they started doing it with, reckless abandon.
Yeah.
And that was the crazy part. It just felt like play after play. And it wasn't just, hey, we're just going to throw 8 people, see if you can stop us. It was a little deceptive at times.
It was calculated,
right? Right. Sometimes you saw linebackers, Mike linebacker come in. You saw cornerback blitzes. You saw safety blitzes. Sometimes you saw 5 people there, 6 people there, and they would just rush everyone. Sometimes they put 6, 7 people there, then drop a couple of them. They'd confuse the line, show them different looks. And that's where you started to see the offense get a little different. And that's also where it went hand in hand with the run game missing. Because suddenly you go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10, then it's an obvious passing situation. If you go from 1st and 10, even if you pass first, and then you make it 2nd and 4, it changed the dynamic. Even if you're going 13 passes, 1 run, there's still that element of, hey, it's 2nd and 4, I can still run it. But you took that away, and suddenly it made the looks harder. Spencer was definitely, under pressure a lot more. But still, I think he handled it well. You saw him break out a few times. You saw him make good passes. The coverage was good. That they got better for sure.
Yeah.
Guys were definitely, getting better because this is like we said, we always say talented defense, but many dads called it a lack of confidence from this defense. And that's what it looked like because guys were just underperforming. And you saw how those linebackers were playing and everything against UNC when they were getting steamrolled. they did a lot better against the run this
Sure.
game. But that's a lot of it. What happened in that middle, second, third quarter with Spencer started to go down a little bit. Fourth quarter again, closing it out. Team played well, making good passes, getting the ball out. They did a good job for sure.
I think one thing we definitely have to highlight is this offensive line and how they played, right? We're going to talk and really digest the season,
Sure.
in a later segment in the show. But my goodness, can we just take an exhale about this offensive line this season? Because this was a good final performance. I mean, you look at some of their performances across the board. I look at
who I really liked?
Who?
Number 85.
That was my favorite. 85. I guess Hunter Anthony, he changed his number to become a Cowboy back there.
I swear he came back and played 77.
We were talking about it during. We were like, who is this guy? Number 85. We were confused as heck. But yeah. So when you look at this offensive line, and how they played all season, the roller coaster ride this was. Remember that first Tulsa game? Oh my gosh.
Man, how far have we come, right?
How far have we come? Seriously. And then you look at, I think their peak might have been that, probably either Texas Tech game.
Yeah. I think so. That was one of their best, probably their best performance of the year.
And this was a good one too. Let's be honest.
Sure.
So, yeah, when you look at sort of how they played last night, do you think this was a perfect culmination for them, right? Especially without Tevin Jenkins, obviously, and some of the other injuries.
Yeah, you just talk about this was, it was just a game of resiliency where even in this game, it's not like everyone came back healthy and you're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tylen Wallace stepped out after a quarter.
Yeah.
Or sorry, after half. LD Brown didn't take the full complement. Chuba Hubbard was missing. Tevin Jenkins was missing. Dylan Galloway's missing.
I was missing.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan Novozinsky was missing from the defensive line.
Yeah.
Oh my God, everyone was missing, right? I mean, even the backups, guys we forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
Tyron Irby, right? I mean, guys are missing like all over. Rodarius Williams missing.
Sure.
But to come out and to play this hard, just to play with so much fight and so much resiliency, and every game that's happened, that's the thing. I'm not saying they played, they lost confidence or something.
Sure.
No, they've been playing hard every single game. For them to come back now and play hard to do everything, say, what, we don't care if this person's missing, that person's missing. If I'm Josh Sills, I'm going to the right tackle spot. I'm Cole Birmingham, I'm coming back and playing. I think he may have actually started.
Yeah.
Guys, coming back, guys playing hard. You've lost so many guys, and if you came back, play hard, and not just play hard, you have talented guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing we talked about with this team. Too deep. Trey Strong's been hurt all year. He came in and had one of his best games. Colby Harville-Peel, made an impact. Everyone did, right? Malcolm Rodriguez coming back. It's those sort of things, and everyone played so well, and OSU showed it was a culmination, not the sense of, okay, hey, this is the potential of the team, or this is what we thought they might be.
Mm-hmm.
It was a culmination of, hey, in spite of the injuries, in spite of guys missing, we don't care. We're still going to play and play really well.
Exactly, right? And that's what I was trying to say, like, is that everything was gathering in towards this game, and it was a perfect send-off for the team, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mike Gundy talked about how this was, one of his favorite bowl wins ever, and that's kind of interesting to hear, because it's like, I kind of get it to an extent. I mean, if I'm an OSU fan, I'm not saying the Cheez-It Bowl should be the ceiling. I don't think so. I mean, I had fun covering the Cheez-It Bowl.
I get what he's saying though. Like, for a coach who's lost this many guys, you like we always say, you can't fight science.
Sure.
Or you can't fight injuries. But for a coach, the one thing we've never heard from Mike Gundy this entire year, the one thing he's never said is, my guys are not playing with, or my guys have a lack of effort right now. He's never once said that. In fact, at times he's always appreciated how hard they've played, no matter what, and that's great. When you lose guys and you lose games and you lose tough situations, it's easy to put your head down and lose it. But this team's got good leaders, a bunch of senior guys, a lot of veterans, and I think that definitely has to do a big part of it. And I mean, let's not forget about this. How many teams early on did we see get messed up by COVID?
Yeah.
Right. Not only lose players, cancel games, but also lose really bad games.
Gosh,
I mean, you think early in the season,
Iowa State, are you kidding me?
Right. I mean, you think about some of those. I mean, what was it? HB, whatever, Texas Tech. They were just random games, and a lot of it just had to do with no preparation, no off season, no conditioning, and to get through a whole season successfully. To fight through. I mean, this team hasn't really been affected. They haven't come close to canceling a game because of themselves, and they've just continued fighting. They've done a really good job. Yeah, hats off to Mike Gundy in this program.
Honestly, yeah, I was going to say that too. It's like, with all the turmoil this offseason, I was thinking this was going to be one of the weirdest OSU seasons I've ever seen, at least. But man, when you look at it, and how it ended, it was pretty smooth considering how the offseason was. I mean, every day you and I would wake up and be like, what's happening now with this team? So and you can't really say the same thing, I guess, on the other side of the sideline, right? Obviously the loss, but the loss to De'Aaron King too, was really hampered Miami. But despite that, what did you think of Miami's attack on offense, right? We talked about it yesterday. We digested it a little bit, but now that you've been able to take a deep breath, really think about what Miami was able to do on offense, what did you think of it? Because I like their little short game pass attack, right? And then it can translate into a deep launch down the field, or just the quarterbacks, both their running abilities.
Yeah, well, the thing that, studying them beforehand that they do really well with De'Aaron King, obviously, was two things. One, they run a lot of bubble screens and, find the long passes off of that. They run little short passing game with the crossing routes and the slants and those things. And then they use that to really open up the deep passing game and get the ball down the field. And two is the power run game. The QB, the designed runs with De'Aaron King. And they'll do it from a spread attack where they'll have four receivers out there, and a lot of times their fourth receiver is their tight end, Brennan Presley, who everyone saw be really athletic the other day. But with Perry in there, they didn't lose as much as you maybe thought they would.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that guy was still, a good runner. He wasn't obviously the runner, the violent runner that De'Aaron King is. I mean, you say violent, you might be a little surprised, but he's got some strength to him, right? For a small guy, he packs a punch. He's also fast, he's explosive, he's elusive. But yeah, Perry, I think, was a good runner, especially in the open field. You saw him, you saw the legs, the acceleration. He wasn't the same type of runner. He's more of, scramble out of bad situations guy, but he's athletic. But he's also a really good passer. And I thought as the game, went along, and the same thing I said in the video, but, as the game went along, I thought Miami did such a good job, sticking with their schemes, concepts, and letting it work. Because when it worked early on, it was understanding how much man-to-man OSU was playing and counting off of that. How do you beat man? What's the easiest way to beat man coverage when it's like... Because here's the thing. When you play really good man coverage, it's almost impossible. Right? Yeah. I mean, when cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers are sticking to your guys one-on-one, there's no passing lanes, and you don't need to have an elite pass rush. You can get them from cover sacks, because even what's considered a bad pass rush by professional football standards, you're still getting there after 4 or 5 seconds, right? And OSU was sticking in coverage, but all season long. But in this game, when you have those bubble screens, which were executed so well, when you saw the tunnel screens executed so well, when you see these short routes executed so well, because you would run a lot of traffic, you would run, man to man, and it's a thing. You see like 3 receivers out one way, then you run a bubble screen with a guy, maybe the slot guy bubbling out to the left side near the sideline. The 2 other guys are blocking. They block their men, but the third guy, who should be assigned one-on-one with his receiver, has to play off, right? Because if he plays near the line of scrimmage, and as soon as the guy's running a bubble screen and he bites, then OSU's going to get beat down the field. Right. So early on, you saw OSU back off a little bit, right? Before the ball snapped, those OSU cornerbacks are 5 to 10 yards away. So by the time the ball is thrown out of King or whoever's Perry's hand and given there, OSU has to run through all that traffic, the blockers and their own men, right? So if it's Trey Sterling in coverage, who has to cover, maybe Brevin Jordan, the tight end,
right?
Then Trey Sterling has to run through Amen and has to run through Jared Bernard Converse, run through Christian Holmes, run through 2 guys and the guys that are blocking him. And by the time he gets there, that Miami receiver is already 10 yards down the field, right? And that's how they did it. It was a short pass game. You saw some of those rub routes and those sort of things, and it happened time and time again. And what happens from that, you keep doing that. But again, it doesn't work every time, right? But you see Miami keep doing that time and time again. Then from there, they'll call Pike, and then they'll maybe pump fake to the bubble screen. Then suddenly OSU's defense has to bite because they've seen that happen and burn them time and time again. Then you get something down the field. Or, the power run game is working. And even if it's not working, even if they've only done it 2 times, you've seen it on tape so many times when you're Colby Alvarpeel and this defense that you bite, right? Yeah. You step in because you think, oh, no, we can't get beat by that. Then all of a sudden you have a guy down the field. And it was a really strong approach by Miami. They stuck with it. Early on they struggled. Sure. But they stuck with it. Their defense, woke up, and the offense started to, gain traction and hit some big plays. And the run game, a few plays here and there. And suddenly you're rolling an offense. And obviously some missed tackles too. It really goes hand in hand. There was a lot of times where OSU, got in the backfield, great penetration, got in the backfield ready to stop a run, or it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and OSU has it stopped. Then missed tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Missed tackles are terrible.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. That was a big theme this game, and we've seen that happen in several games this season. West Virginia, we've seen it in some other games, maybe TCU a little bit. I'm forgetting the exact games, but we've seen that before. And suddenly you're missing tackle after tackle, and it wasn't just like that. Like, okay, they're 10-yard completion, miss a tackle, and the guy runs for 20 yards. It was, hey, you make that tackle, it's -3. You make that tackle, it's a 1-yard gain, and they punt the ball away. Instead, you miss a tackle, they go. And the thing that OSU does so well is they'll blitz site, they'll cover 0U, or they'll just stick guys one-on-one. So when OSU does that, the advantage they have is their athleticism, their closing speed. Every single position. Before Trace Ford went down, you have Trace Ford, that sort of athleticism for defensive end. You have Amen, you have Malcolm Rodriguez, 2 very athletic linebackers. Trey Sterling, Colby Harville-Pill, Rodarius Williams, who's an excellent tackler. Jarek Brown-Converse, who used to play safety, right? All these guys who have amazing closing speed, great pursuit. So when they get, in open space, one-on-one to make those tackles, they have to. Because if they do, which they're, the point I'm getting at is when you have that sort of closing speed, you're able to make those great plays, right? So say they throw a 2-yard out route, then you can stop them right there. Because of, Trey Sterling running down from a safety position and making a tackle right there. If he does, it's a 2-yard game, then Miami punts the ball away. Sure. If he doesn't, there's no one in there because the way OSU will play, they'll do that where it'll be a lot of one-on-one coverage, a lot of single, in space, tackling in space. That's a key thing. And the moment they don't tackle in space, those 2 yards become 15, 20, 30 yards. And that's an issue.
It's a huge issue, right? And it happened quite a bit, like you said, in this game and other games across the season too. I believe, like you said, I think it was the TCU game that this happened. And potentially too, definitely the West Virginia game for sure. And when you look at sort of some of the issues that OSU had in this game, do you think that it's just, the defense biting a little bit too much or the missed tackles, obviously, or do you think was there any other issues that you saw from this defense that stuck out to you in this game that really is one of the more glaring things?
I think the missed tackles is the biggest thing to me. And only because, there was biting, but hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
Right? I always say that. I mean, hindsight is 20/20, but that's part of it's part of the thing of
I like aggressive mistakes,
right?
Kind of,
because it's part of the game plan. When it's smart on Jim Knowles and this defense understanding, okay, this is what Miami's going to do. The biting only happens a few times, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't the reason that Miami was able to put up points.
Sure.
The reason was, to me, the missed tackles because you talk about 1 bite, 2 bite. Okay, maybe that's a big play. But then say they go from their own 20-yard line to the opposing 40-yard line.
Sure.
And then you stop them in 3 downs, then they punt the ball away. But because you're giving them, down after down after down, and, they punt the ball away there, 0 points. But instead, you go there and you're at the 40, and then, they're getting 1 first down, another first down, another first down. Because, they'll make some, and here's not everything's a missed tackle, right? Let's not think like, okay, every single play is a missed tackle. But you'll have a few missed tackles plays where those should have went down. Then you have some good plays by Miami, and just by that offense and their offensive play design and their talented playmakers. But you do that a few times, and suddenly everything just goes into a flow, and that was the bigger issue here, and that's it's a tough one because you have the personnel to really stop them there. You just need to.
And here's the thing that was concerning too for me is that you even have guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, who we talked about so many times, so rangy, right, so athletic. And even he's like on some occasions would miss a tackle or two, and that would bring Miami from having a 3-yard gain to giving them, maybe a 6 or 7-yard game, and that's not great, right? Because game of inches, right, and it allows them to capitalize on some of these opportunities and really gain more yardage down the field, and then sometimes it would elevate to huge gains down the field.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like it's not that like one missed tackle was a 70-yard run and that was the whole thing that screwed up. It was just consistent, right? Where it should have been a 3-yard game or it should have been a minus 3-yard game, and suddenly it's a 10-yard game and a 7-yard game. And it was subtle. Those missed tackles are subtle, but slowly they add up. And, suddenly what should be a 3rd and 10 is a 3rd and 1.
Exactly.
Right? Against a very explosive offense, which otherwise you should be keeping down. And that's really where the difficult thing, lies. And it's like I said, it's an explosive Miami offense. So if they are gaining play, they're going to gain some offense. That's going to happen. What you got to do is, get them into tougher situations, get them 3rd down, get them off the field, and force some turnovers, which they did. But overall, get them down to places you should. I'm not going to ask someone to make a tackle when they're 5 yards away.
Sure.
But where you should be making a tackle, you should be making a tackle.
And when you look at sort of the OSU defense this year, right, you look at, we just talked all about some of the missed tackles, some of the missed opportunities. But I think when it's all said and done, when you write the history books about this OSU team, you're not going to look at this OSU team and say, oh, missed tackles and whatnot. You're going to look at this OSU defense as one of the best in recent history.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Easily. One of the best. I'd even say this. One of the best OSU defenses of all time.
Sure, yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. When I say this, I'm nitpicking so hard.
Of course, yeah.
of an elite defense that could be the best in the country. No, I mean, that's not what I'm actually saying. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
you take these little things out, and suddenly you go from good to great to, I mean, they're already great. You take it from great to, like, the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
And it's like, it's that sort of thing. And that's what you talk about it, right? How many times have we pointed out in the film room and in little things of, man, if they just, you know, were in their gap, Breece Hall wouldn't go from 185 yards to 30, 40, 50 yards.
Yeah.
If Brennan Evers made that tackle, if blah blah made that tackle, Letty Brown would have 30 yards. Like, I agree, because I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Because it's just little things here and there, and Jim Knowles has pointed that out too. And it's one of those things where I'm nitpicking just because I can see that. They can see the light of, okay, they'd be really, really good. And I don't say that as, man, they suck. If they were just better, they'd be better. I say that as they have the personnel, they have the scheme, they have everything there. It's like you might bake brownies, but you didn't. The brownies aren't good unless you eat them.
Wow. I didn't think we were going to get philosophical here. Man, I should have brought my best material. Wow. That is, no, seriously. It is a good point, though, right? Because you can't have it unless you taste them.
And it's like the point I'm getting at really is, I'm not saying like, okay, if 2018 Oklahoma, if 2017 Mason Rudolph, right, that year, had a really good defense or something like that, then they'd be, national championship. They have it, right? They have all the pieces. They have the scheme. They have the depth. They have the veterans. They have this knowledge. They have the Jim Knowles. They have all of that. It's just, you're there. Just make that play, and it's so different. And it's like, how many times have we seen we've broken down a 70-yard run, a 60-yard pass, and it's always just a little thing
every
here.
week.
And most of the time it's a run play, right?
Yeah.
Gap discipline.
Breece Hall.
Right. Could just play contain, trace forward. Instead of coming down, just stay right there. Blah, blah, doesn't get the touchdown. We've done this time and time again. And again, it's not like, hey, Trace Ford can't make that play. It's discipline. It's sometimes it's the play you don't make, right? And those are the little things that change everything. And and sometimes it doesn't apply. Spencer Rattler and OU, that was a different case.
Yeah.
But most games, that's why I say I see it. It's like it's a thing that I could do, right? I could play contain, maybe not, but it's one of those things. And you look at that, and you could take it from elite to one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the country. It's like it's that sort of thing, because I truly believe with this sort of personnel, this scheme, these concepts, everything, this defensive coordinator, man, you could.
I completely agree, right? And you have the talent there, you have the knowledge there too, for sure. When you look at this season, when you see, this season where OSU lost 3 games in a season that was hyped up, I even say this hyped in this offseason was much more than that Mason Rudolph year.
Sure.
Much more. And that was the year that they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, clamored as one of the 4 teams that will be in the college football playoff, the first ever college football playoff. This team, though, when you think about it holistically, do you think that this will be a disappointing season?
I think holistically it'll come down as that sort of thing. It's the same logic as coaches get too much blame, too much credit. It's not. No one's ever, like you just talked about the record books, right? No one's ever going to climb through the record books and say, yeah, let's put an asterisk there because they lost Alan Wall some games. Chuba Hubbard was hurt. The offensive line was decimated. They had so many injuries. There was COVID. There was this. There's that. That's the truth. But no one's going to look at that. They're going to look at it as, man, yeah, there was all those expectations, but it went down because of this reason, that reason, that reason, which is tough, which is a tough blender. It's a tough, it's a tough justification, but that is probably how it's going to go down. I don't think it is. I mean, I think you look at the injuries, because here's the thing. It was never a problem with the skill players. Even when and if Tylen Wallace and Chuba Hubbard were going down, you can't sustain this sort of attack when, even for Spencer Sanders, he can't play at his same level if the offensive line is, hurt this much. And we talk about this offense, and you think about where the hype started. Chuba Hubbard and Tylen Wallace coming back. Spencer Sanders expected to step forward. Defense expected to be good. No one thought the defense would be like this. No. Right? No one thought that nobody thought Desmond Jackson, L.D. Brown, and Dominique Richardson would have an impact the way they have. It hasn't been a skill hasn't been a skill player problem. It's been an offensive line issue, and it's not just offensive line that are playing bad. They've lost so many guys.
Right.
If almost all other teams had lost this many guys, they would probably have the worst offensive line in the country.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just been uneven more than anything, and it's been interesting to watch. But I think, for me, if I'm Mike Gundy, I think this is a successful season, just considering everything that happened. I'm sure that's the way he views him, and it seems like all the guys, kind of look that way. You love the fight in everyone, and great to see it, honestly.
Yeah. Totally, because I think everyone's going to look also at this season as being the COVID season, and you're right. It was the offensive line so many times, because you can miss one left tackle, and believe me, every single position. I feel like Rice Schneider, and even he went down quite
Right.
once or twice. But you look at this offensive line, and it was a revolving door, as we say so many times, musical chairs, right? So it's hard to do that when there's no time, and it's hard to thrive when there's no time, and that's what you got from the offensive line this year. So that's all we have for you guys today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to all of our football coverage this season. We sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for helping us grow. Thank you for helping us cover this OSU football team. We could not have done it without your support and everything like that. We appreciate it. Thank you so much here from Deep in the Novo. Have a fantastic day.